little late. Okay, so I'll start with the meditations, some breathing, and then setting the motivation, and after that we'll do the prayers. Now let's use this lesson to listen and contemplate to the teachings on refuge. So that we may be able to take refuge in the most effective way. In particular in the resultant Buddhahood, that is our own enlightened state of Buddha. So that this refuge may eventually become bodhicitta, a mind of enlightenment. That is the spontaneous aspiration to become a Buddha. Based on great compassion and love. So that eventually we'll remove all the obscurations that are not in the nature of our mind. And become fully awakened. great aspiration. The perfect guide. And a true example for all other sentient beings.
revelation of wisdom should be practiced exactly as you have taught, and that the Tathagatas will produce. Like the better one who said this, the Venerable Buddha, the superior of Vishvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, and the entire assembly, as well as the worthy beings, gods, humans, demigods, and dharmas and others, were filled with admiration and high praise all that is spoken by the Blessed One. So then, so very I go for refuge and hear and die to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Saint. By the accumulation of merit of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge and hear and die to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Saint. By the accumulation of merit of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge and hear and die to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Saint. By the accumulation of merit of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings never be separated from happiness and be free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment, from waves and hatred for enemies.
All right, I have a question. We said previously, well, first of all, what is faith? What is faith? Depends. I mean, there are how many types? Three. The first one is believing faith. The second one is joyful, pure, clear faith. The last one is aspirational. When we say believe, what does believe mean? What does believe?
We believed it, although we didn't realize it ourselves.
Okay, so belief is, you believe something to be true, but based on that, what it means is that you don't know 100%. There's no incontrovertible knowledge. Can you know something and believe it at the same time? Not directly?
Directly know something?
If you directly know something, like you're Buddha, you know something, you know it's like that, do you also believe it? Would that be correct to say in English? You know it. So there's no need to believe. Would that make sense? Would that make sense? Right? Or I don't know. You're a Buddha, right? You're a Buddha. Well, I said previously there is no faith. But let's analyze that. So, can the Buddha believe in something if the Buddha already knows everything? Would there be a need to believe something? No. Right? So, it just depends how we define belief. But the way I understand it in terms of believing faith is you believe something for as long as you don't know. And once you come to know, then there's no longer a need to believe it because you know it firsthand. So there's a difference between saying, I believe this to be the right practice, versus I know it's the right practice. Okay.
You ask to believe in it.
Believe in something, yes. So Bada, what's your objection? What's your objection?
If you believe in something,
Yeah.
it's better to know it first. And then you can believe, you can trust, you can depend on it.
But trust and believe are two different things. Here, yicheva. In Tibetan, yicheva just means you don't know for sure, but you believe it. Trust is different. I don't think it's the word trusting. I trust this person. I know they're reliable. But even with trusting someone, would you say you can trust them if you know 100% that's what they're going to do?
No. No, they can do something
Yes,
for us.
I know him and I trust him.
You know him and you trust him. Okay, so I know what's going to happen. I trust this is going to happen. But anyway, the word yicheva in Tibetan, to believe, doesn't have to, it's not really mean trust, right? But anyway, the question is again, doesn't trust apply, you don't know 100%, you don't know 100%, but you trust them nevertheless, because you're really sure. Doesn't trust mean you're sure versus you know incontrovertibly? This has got nothing to do with the believing faith, because it doesn't have the connotation of trusting in something, trusting that the Dharma will help, for instance. It's more like you believe it because you don't know. That is the connotation of the Tibetan word. But to trust, it just depends how the English word is used. You know incontrovertibly, would you still say, I trust it?
It's a mental decision.
I trust this
prefer
person.
to trust, but it's a mental consideration.
But yes, I totally agree with you. But my question would be like, if you know what's going to happen, do you need to trust?
Sometimes I do.
No, I know.
I know the Buddha is perfect.
You know?
Just a minute, let's say. In that case, I can trust everything he says because I know him to be reliable. I know that my mother wants my everything is good, so I trust when she tells me don't touch the heaven. I trust her because I know, I don't know if the heaven is hot or not, but I know the person who tells me. So I can trust. So if I know that
No, okay.
I trust it will work.
Okay, let me rephrase this. I think the way you use the word know, strictly speaking, we cannot know that our mom wants the best. Why can we not know? Because we don't know inconvertibly her mind. I can only know, unless you're clairvoyant. But if you're not clairvoyant, like, I believe my mom wants the best for me. But I don't know because I don't even know she has a mind. I can only know that I have a mind, but since I have no perception of her mind, so the way they put it, that makes perfect sense in an everyday kind of situation, everyday life situation. But I'm talking here about knowledge, like incontrovertible. You know for sure. I personally, using that definition of knowledge, would mean I don't even know my mom has a mind. So how can I know that she wants the best for me? But the one thing I know, this is a watch. I know this is a watch. Would I say I trust it's a watch? But that I don't know. That I don't know. I believe it. Things that I really know. I know you're here. Right? Right now you're here. This I know. I don't know whether you're going to be here 5 minutes from now. Don't know. But I know you're here right now. Do I trust you're here right now? No, I know. I don't need to trust. I don't believe it because I know. Wouldn't it be bizarre to say? So really, from a Buddhist point of view, there's very little we know. Very little we know. Very little. The things we say we know, we just take them on faith. If you really think about it, we use the word know in a very loose sense. And even with what I know right now, I could say, well, maybe I'm hallucinating. Don't even know that. You're actually not here. So they don't even want to take it to that level. So just on a conventional level, I know directly you're here. So then I wouldn't say, I believe because I know, and then trust. Okay, but trust anyway is out of the question because it's just depends on how we use the word trust. My second question is, does the Buddha experience joyful faith? As in like, being pleased, perceiving a special being. What is joyful faith? What is joyful faith? First let me ask you, make sure you go through. What is joyful faith? Can you give me an example of joyful faith?
Like when I'm around, if I meet the Dalai Lama,
Yeah.
I'll become very, just seeing him, I will become very joyful.
So, okay, for some people that's probably not true for everyone, but if you're in the presence of His Holiness Dalai Lama, it's like, whoa, what is that joy? Actually, it's so strong that it may move you to tears. It's just because with certain levels of joy, we can't deal with them, so we react with crying. You know, we see someone again, or when we're really touched. So in that moment, we may even express cry, but we're not crying because we're sad. It's a deep sense of joy. Where does that joy come from? Why do we experience that joy?
Because it feels something from him that is like projecting some his compassion, his love. It's like you feel it. You understand. I mean,
it's not the feeling we usually have, right? Unless we meet someone like His Holiness, it's like this deep sense of joy when we meet a special person, when we're inspired by someone. And this is usually associated with spiritual attainments. It's not like you see, I don't know, Madonna and you go, that's being starstruck or whatever, right? No, you're actually deeply inspired. Would a Buddha have that?
No.
Towards himself? Probably not. So the other option would be towards others, right?
It is conditional, I guess.
Pardon?
It is conditional. If, for example, I never heard about the Dalai Lama, and I happen to see him, I guess I would feel nothing. It's conditional.
Yeah, I agree. So I totally agree with you. So, but there are people, I meet people in Dharamsala. Once, like this young German guy stopped me in the road. He started talking to me, and it turned out we both spoke the same language, so I had tea. He said, the weirdest thing happened to me. I went to the temple like everyone else did, just because the Dalai Lama went to a puja, and he walked past me, and I started crying for like half an hour. Am I going crazy?
This can happen also with Hollywood film, you know.
Of course, it can. But I'm wondering, if you didn't know who this Hollywood actor was, right? Would you burst into tears? Could it happen to you if you don't know who someone is? He didn't care about the Dalai Lama, he just heard his name, he was not starstruck. But anyway, that's a whole different matter. So people are affected in different ways, and I totally agree with what he said. It may happen to some, it may not happen to others. But I'm trying to look at those people for whom it happens, to whom it happens, because I think that's an example of joyful faith. My question is still, would the Buddha experience that joyful faith? Because there are only two options. It's not experienced, it depends on himself, because otherwise he'd be experiencing it all the time. So it would be another person. Either that other person is a Buddha, equal in terms of his or her spiritual attainments, or below, spiritually, say Bodhisattva. So this joyful faith, this kind of inspirational joyful faith, would that happen for a Bodhisattva? No. If someone who's spiritually not as advanced as we are, why would we feel that sense of joy, this devotional sense of joy? Versus, on the same level, oh, just like me, big deal. I'm just kind of reasoning here.
Because you know that virtue brings happiness to oneself and to everyone else. So when you see somebody engaging in virtue, huge, tremendous virtue,
So that means the Buddha is always in that state, right? The Buddha, but then it's a joyful faith. I mean, joy and joyful faith, are they the same thing?
Why is it joy?
The Buddha, of course, always experiences bliss. In fact, no matter whether someone engages in non-virtue or virtue, the Buddha's mind is always blissful. So joy is always there. But the question is joy and joyful faith, are they the same thing?
What's the difference? Why would you have to add faith to joy, as joy is one of the afflictions on
No. We're talking about a kind of devotional joy. Like, like when you're inspired. Like, we're joyful, yes, I'm joyful when my mom accumulates virtue or maybe someone else, but I don't experience, and even when the Dalai Lama is around, he may not do something virtuous that I'm aware of, but I'm like, whoa, I'm like hit with this deep joy, I could say. Pardon?
You talk about bliss.
Bliss is just a stronger version of joy. So it's like we're talking about not just joy, this is joyful faith. What is this? What is this joyful faith? It's this devotion, this joy you experience when you meet a certain person of a certain level. So it's not just joy, because the Buddha experiences joy at all times. But no matter what the Buddha experiences, it's joyful. So we say the Buddha is pleased. The Buddha meditates. That cannot be taken seriously. In the Heart Sutra, the Buddha arose from the meditation. Nah, he never arose. The Buddha doesn't meditate. The Buddha is in that state of absorption. You meditate in order to reach something that you haven't reached yet. So we call that meditation, and when the Buddha seems to be doing it, we say the Buddha meditates. But in actuality, the Buddha neither arises from any state of mind, nor does he go into a meditation. That's just from the point of view of common appearance. The Buddha is joyful. The Buddha was pleased. Someone said something. Literally, the Buddha is always pleased. The Buddha doesn't get upset, because if the Buddha was not always pleased, it would mean that sometimes he gets upset. He gets worried. No, but worry are conceptual. Getting upset are conceptual awarenesses in terms of getting upset with something another person has done, number one. And number two, the Buddha doesn't get upset. So therefore there's always joy, but that devotional. I'm just curious, is there that kind of devotional aspect? And I'm not answering it, I'm just throwing it out there, just to analyze it. That's the last, yeah.
Oh,
no, go ahead, please, go ahead, sure.
So you said the Buddha doesn't experience conceptual, like, feelings, I guess. So why would he experience devotion for someone else?
That's what I'm saying. I don't believe the Buddha experiences devotion, but I'm wondering, I don't know for sure. Devotion, it's like, I'm just trying to specify, because those three types of joy are really, these three types of faith are important, but they need to be understood correctly, because Buddhism is not without faith, but it follows a different type of faith than in other traditions. Faith is actually really important, because it actually is associated with it's a positive state of mind. So any positive state of mind helps us to grow. And faith is one of them. Okay? Aspiration, of course, the Buddha doesn't aspire towards anything because he's reached all these levels. Yes?
What about towards his own teachers? The previous Buddhas that he relied upon for his own progress toward enlightenment?
What about you mean like devotion in them?
Well, the fact that he was once an ordinary being, he met these Buddhas, developed bodhicitta, relied on them, and became enlightened. So now he's at the same level that they are at. But would he not feel devotion because of the role they played in his own life, in his own development?
I mean, kind of devotion means you're looking up to someone, but if you're on the same level, right?
Yeah, but previously, he would remember in the past.
Right.
Previously, they were at a higher level than him.
But everyone was the Buddha's teacher at some point, like everyone was the Buddha's mother, everyone was a teacher to the Buddha. Maybe not the teacher who was responsible for his enlightenment, but we've been each other's teachers even like as non-Buddhists, for instance, endless times, countless times. So to a certain degree, we've all been each other's teacher. Maybe not the one, like I said, there's one taking you to enlightenment, but the Buddha realizes that this person has done him or her great service, but devotion, it's more like a feeling of like inspiration, etc. And maybe even the teachers who brought the Buddha to enlightenment are not yet enlightened. It's possible. It's possible that you attain enlightenment before your teachers. It's a possibility. So if they're not enlightened, again, would the Buddha be devoted? A sense of gratitude, okay, but even a sense of gratitude, possible, like there's this connection between them, but devotion, I'm wondering.
Because when I look at the definition for faith, I don't have it with me now.